right. Donald Trump ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It's connected to Time magazine choosing him as its Person of the Year. And Time's editor-in-chief, Sam Jacobs, joins us now. Good to have you with us.
So, Sam, I don't know if this would be a controversial pick or not. It's hard to not say, given how Time's always said, for good or ill, the person who's most impacted the year. We had a trial. We had an assassination attempt. We had the most tumultuous campaign in modern history. We had rhetoric that, at least we thought around this table, was the most divisive in recent American history. And then we had a victory where Donald Trump improved in 49 to 50 states. Talk about this year, this just vertiginous year.
I think, Joe, you've made the case for why Donald Trump is Time's 2024 Person of the Year. I think we are living in the age of Trump. I think many people thought perhaps after his defeat in 2020 that his first presidency was an aberration. But what this election shows is it was not, that he is continuing a path through American politics. And I think in some ways, because we've been living in that age for nearly a decade now, the sheer extraordinary nature of this year is hard to take notice of. You just walked us through those events. Each one of those events is going to be a moment in time that historians are going to be writing about for years.
So take us behind the scenes a little bit, as best you can, of the selection process. Some of the other nominees we know about, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, Vice President Harris, of course, who Trump defeated in the election, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and others. Talk to us about these conversations here and why the choice became clear that it was Trump.
Some years, this is a hard choice. Mika, last year we talked about Taylor Swift and the decision behind that. This year, not a hard choice. We certainly asked the president-elect about many of those people who you just mentioned, and he's got opinions about all of them. But this was an obvious decision for those of us at Time.
Yeah.
You know, when I look at this, I agree with you. That had to be Donald Trump. And really the moment was the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. Because when people forget history, you say a year to them, 1973, their minds scramble what happened that year. You know? But that moment where he's bleeding and saying, fight, fight, fight. And that moment is when Bobby Kennedy Jr. made an effort to go see Trump and talk about assassination, what happened to his father. And that moment, Elon Musk endorsed him, and it kind of coalesced for Trump. And then the symbol in Milwaukee for the Republican National Committee was the bandaged ear.
Yeah.
You know, and at that point, it started looking like it was going to be the year of Trump. Only one on the list that could have replaced that would have been Harris if she had won, and we would be talking about our first woman president, but alas, that didn't happen.
I think that is a transformational moment for Trump and for the country. We asked him about it, and he said a lot of people changed how they thought about me during that moment. It's harder to get him to talk about how it changed him.
Right.
But he certainly recognizes that a moment when he moves from being maybe a factional political leader to a cultural one.
Correct.
Simone, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm interested in the conversation, the interview that the president-elect did that goes along with the endorsement. He said a number of things. I was struck by his admission that, you know, he might not be able to get grocery prices down. This isn't his first time on the list. Can you tell us a little bit about the interview? And I know people should definitely take a stab and go read it because it's great.
I don't think there's a news organization that spent more time on the record with President-elect Trump this year than Time. This interview is incredibly revealing. I'd be happy to talk through his thoughts on foreign policy, domestic policy. This is someone who we spent time with in the spring, and then again, we talked to him for 65 minutes at Mar-a-Lago Thanksgiving week about pretty much everything.
Did you notice any changes between Trump pre-election and post-election?
We found him to be much more subdued, lower volume. I think reflective would be an overstatement, but doing a level of introspection that we hadn't seen before. Trump is most comfortable in a fight. And what we saw was someone who felt like he'd won the fight and is now searching to figure out what his positioning is. He said to us, it's actually sad that this is over, that this will never happen again. He seems happiest on a campaign stage, in a campaign, and he's starting to think through what it means for this to be his last campaign.
You know, Maggie Haberman, who knows him
so interesting
as well as any journalist, always said that if you want to understand Donald Trump, you have to understand that his entire life he's been fighting to survive the next 5 minutes. 5 minutes at a time. And now you're suggesting that fight, at least politically, is over.
Over the course of 65 minutes with him, we found him to realize that that's done.
I mean, that political fight for the next campaign is.
I think so. He's now thinking about which of my kids is going to have a role, which of my family members. We asked him, what's the future of MAGA without Trump? He has trouble answering that question.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm Magazine Editor-in-Chief Sam Jacobs. Thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sam. And I just want to be very clear. I'm not talking about how he's not stopping fighting. But again, the political fight that he's been in nonstop since 2012, 2013, that's now at an end, unless, of course, he wants to fight to run for a third time.
And I think he wants to position himself as a global statesperson. I think he sees that, like Eisenhower, when he came in, won in big in 52 and then got out of Korea by June of 53.
Right.
I think he's going to roll in there and say, what can I do with Syria and Israel, Gaza situation, Russia, Ukraine? Can I now run for something larger than the presidency, like global leader that and work with China, Russia, and in a big time, old style summit way.